Hello, I'm Adrian and welcome to Fight Scene Breakdown. I was reading your comments and noticed that there was an overwhelming demand for me to break down the hallway fight scene from Daredevil in Season 1, so without further ado, let's take a look. We've seen a couple of other one-take fight scenes on Fight Scene Breakdown, and I must say that this one is probably the most authentic of the ones so far because it's the one which best utilizes its nature. By never cutting, at least in theory, I'll get to that in just a bit, we are allowed to experience the flow of the fight in real time, complete with pauses where Daredevil is recuperating, enemies are regrouping, or just to take a breather. In other words, instead of trying to hope nobody notices imperfections with the fight, the scene relishes in it. And as I said before, rarely do fights ever show the protagonist actually feeling pain or getting tired. The moody, low-key sepia lighting was also a great choice for the scene, as it serves to contrast the silhouetted figures exchanging blows. And going back to theoretically never cutting, here we get to see how by using camera movements, you can disguise cuts. The first comes when we're closing in right here. Notice everything is now black, which means a frame later, we can go to the next take and disguise it as still being in one take. The next one I'm not entirely sure of, but I do believe there was a cut right here when the man is crossing, as the clothes do look out of place, and it makes sense to cut since we are flipping the camera around again. However, to its credit, the scene disguises the cuts incredibly well, and flipping the camera around to see the fight continue is nothing short of awesome. After a brief tease of what is about to go down, the door breaks open and these bad guys are clearly outmatched. They are thrown through the door, clocked in the head by flying objects, and we finally get to see Daredevil. What's unique about this choreography is that it is very raw and not polished at all, and our protagonist starts to get progressively tired as the fight wears on. Daredevil uses a man's weapon against him, dodges a bullet, and a quick knee takes him down. Now, when I said very raw technique, here's a good example. When you truly want to knee someone, you need to drive the knee through the body and clamp your hands around his neck to deliver maximum impact. But here, he simply doesn't have the time to perform the full technique, so we only see the knee go upward. He quickly disarms his opponents and slams one to the ground, and here's the first touch we see of Daredevil getting tired. He doesn't immediately pop up and go for the next guy. He takes a moment to stabilize himself with the wall before kicking the down man on the floor. He throws his body weight to prevent the next man from shooting him and throws an object at the incoming man from the other side of the hallway. And after performing an excellent judo throw, he hammer fists the man on the floor and ends up on the ground himself from the momentum. Once again, we take our sweet time as we watch these men recover before we go to the next section. The bad guy takes a swing at Daredevil, but the superhero counters it by using the wall for extra momentum for his own punch. He weaves out of another incoming punch and counters with a quick hook at his gut and punches the next man in his throat, immediately slowing him down. As an aside here, this is very much the philosophy of Krav Maga, where one of the main points is to strike at the opponent where he is weakest, be it his throat, his groin, or any other area that will end the fight as quickly as possible. He quickly backfists the man in front of him, and after another brief rest, we move on to the next part of the fight. Sometimes a fancy martial arts technique is not required to deal with a foe, and that's what we see here. He continuously launches a series of right crosses to debilitate his opponent, and when that doesn't work, a good old clothesline will do. A couple of dodges later, we get to see the technique demonstrated by Captain America and the Winter Soldier, the jump spin back kick, and used in the exact same fashion, to gain distance between your opponent. What follows is a flurry of straight up kickboxing and boxing techniques. No grabs or throws, just good old bobbing and weaving and launching your own punches when the time is just right. Not being able to resist the downed opponent, he launches a front kick, which unlike the push kick, is a good striking technique meant to inflict harm and not just move your opponent. A moment later, he uses the wall to add extra style to his punch. After another break, he goes into a great combo. He blocks the hook, headbutts his opponent, Batman's signature move, is able to use a man's shoulder to drive in his knee, backfists him straight to the wall, and we get to see the always popular tornado kick, where in Taekwondo is useful for faking out your opponent, but in film is always good to add extra flair to an impact. Daredevil is pummeled by his enemies, and they take the fight to the other room, but once we're back out again, we get to see just how dangerous it really is to kick in a fight. The man comes flying out with a push kick, but Daredevil dodges it and immediately grabs his leg. This is standard practice for any kick counter, as you need to exploit the fact that your attacker is literally balancing his entire body on one leg, which makes him incredibly susceptible to either having his leg broken if you want to be brutal, or sweep him off the ground, which is what Daredevil opts to do instead. He punches him 2 more times to make sure he is down, and in a very theatrical move, he launches his body into the air to add more centrifugal force to his right hook. The man decides not to give up, and an exhausted Daredevil launches a series of crosses, hooks, and an uppercut to finish him off. This scene is Daredevil's first true test of his mettle, as he has never faced such an onslaught of thugs before. He's also doing it in order to rescue a kid. The stakes are clearly there, and there is no way he could have rescued him without taking out each and every single goon. This fight scene is clearly the standout of the series so far, and it's easy to see why. The choreography brilliantly conveys the raw nature of the fight, the cinematography is simple and effective, and it is, and remains, one of the most talked about scenes in any of Netflix's superhero series. What did you guys think of the fight? Which fight would you like me to analyze next? Subscribe, and you can follow me on my Twitter, Instagram, and brand new Facebook fan page, Godzilla Rex. See you next time.